Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mission Employable podcast. My name is Ryan West. I am your host. We have a great show for you today. By the way, we're in studio looking at the cameras here. Thank you very much for doing that with us. Our guest was gracious enough to do this.
Yeah.
If you're watching this on YouTube, you can also download us on Google, Apple, anywhere basically you can get a podcast these days. Very excited to be doing this episode today. Today's show is all about the Ankeny School District. We haven't talked about Ankeny. Well, we have talked about Ankeny, just not the Ankeny School District, so I'm very excited about it. The Ankeny Community School District enjoys a reputation as one of the premier school districts in Iowa and the Midwest, with students, staff, and parents unified in their effort to excel in academics, athletics, the arts, and activities. And as usual, I stole that right from the website. That is too articulate for myself. Most importantly, joining me on the microphone to talk all things Ankeny Schools is their superintendent, just over a year, just at a year.
Absolutely.
Dr. Erick Pruitt. Dr. Pruitt started with the district in the summer of 2021, is an experienced educator and a Marine veteran. So we were talking before that. We'll get into that a little bit. Dr. Pruitt, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to the Mission Employable podcast.
Thank you for the invitation. Glad to be here.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you got back so fast. That is awesome because actually I got connected with your name. I was telling you this before we got started. Went up and we talked about the Orbis, the work-based learning program, the Orbis program, which we're going to talk about here in the schools. I'm confident in school year of 2022. And your name kept coming up. You got to talk to this guy. You got to talk to this guy. They said a little more formal than that.
Right.
And so we reached out, and here we are. So again, thank you for making time. You got an interesting background. Let's kick off the interview with what you did in the Marines first and foremost, and then high-level overview. You know how your education and your career brought you to Ankeny and the Ankeny Community School District as their superintendent.
No, absolutely. Anytime someone asks me about my time in the Marines, the first thing I tell them that is deciding to enlist in the Marines after high school was probably the best decision of my life.
Me and the Navy, totally agree.
Saved my life. Yeah. And so straight out of high school, joined the Marine Corps back in '91. Went to boot camp in San Diego and was in aviation operations. And so I was attached to a helicopter squadron stationed on the USS Guam.
Yep.
And so invaluable experience.
For sure.
However, while I was in as an enlisted, I was actually in the Mediterranean on the USS Guam. I had the opportunity to apply for a program called Boost, a Marine enlistment program, commissioning program. And so I had an opportunity to go to basically a prep school for sailors and Marines in San Diego for an entire year. And then after that year, I was accepted into a program called MECEP. That's the Marine Enlisted Commissioning Education Program. It allowed me to keep my enlistment while I was in the Marine Corps and go to a 4-year institution. And so I chose to go back home to Indiana, went to Purdue, the real university in Indiana.
There it is.
And was allowed and was able to major in elementary education.
Okay, very cool.
And then from there, unfortunately, I ended up getting medically discharged, but the Marines taught me invaluable lessons that I think I use today. And so Purdue is my undergraduate experience with elementary education. Started my career actually in Chicago public schools as a first grade teacher. And what I tell people is I got out of the Marines in July. And I got started teaching in August with the first grade classroom. So imagine that, a Marine in a first grade classroom with kids and parents. And so, but it was a great experience.
Two different worlds.
Absolutely two different worlds.
Yeah.
And so taught first grade, taught middle school while I was in Chicago public schools. And then while I was in Chicago, had an opportunity to apply for a program at that time called New Leaders for New Schools. It's a national principal preparation program. Was accepted and did a 1-year, basically an internship under a master principal in Chicago, and then got my first contract as a principal in Chicago. I did was a principal for 7 years and got promoted, was a principal supervisor. And then during that time, went to school, Loyola University, National Louis, and then I got the call a few years later to go down to Houston Independent School District to work with Dr. Greer. He was a superintendent in Houston and had a wonderful time learning about bilingual education in that system, dual language, and was over elementary, middle, and high schools while in Houston. And then I got the call back to come back up to Chicago, where before I came here, I was over 96 high schools in Chicago public schools.
Wow.
Which led me to where I am today, and got tapped to come and work with a wonderful team here in Ankeny.
Yeah, what a background. Unbelievable. A couple things that really stick out. For one, was education, because you've put yourself through so much education since, when you went into the military, were you thinking, I may not end up, I'll put that off till later on, because you got into it within that 4 years. It's a pretty amazing. And the other thing is all the programs you took advantage of, which I think is really key for folks.
So what's interesting is while I was in high school in Indianapolis, I was in an independent study course. And I think this is really related to work-based learning.
Sure.
And so I had the opportunity to take an independent study course where they allowed me to teach biology to fourth grade students during my senior year. So that's where I got the bug.
It's interesting
for teaching.
Sure.
And so, and upon graduate, and then I talk about this a lot when I transitioned into Ankeny, where it's just really important that students have a concrete post-secondary plan.
Yeah.
And so I was one of those students when I graduated where I really didn't have people to talk to me about what I really wanted to do after high school.
Yeah.
And I knew I wasn't ready to go to college. I could have gone to college, but I grew up with a single mom, a younger sister, would have wasted money and time. And I didn't want to put it on, I didn't want the money to come out of her pocket.
For sure.
So I said, there's something that I can do to help my family, to help myself. And I'm going to work towards a goal that I set for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a great story. Congratulations. And Ankeny's very lucky to have you. I've heard that not only from the group at Orbis, from a few other folks, which again, we're pumped to have you on. And let's jump into this then. You mentioned some things there too that I think lead into this next question. It's no secret that we all here are all in on work-based learning, and there's different interpretations that I think of it, but the gist of it, we are certainly here to help promote employers and high schools get into that that atmosphere of creating these different things. Give us a breakdown of what work-based learning means to you and how the Ankeny School District is implementing those concepts.
Well, what work-based learning means to me is basically it's a representation of the transformation of how we see education and educating our students in K-12 in the K-12 arena. And so we've gone through different iterations of how we prepare students. And so at first it was, we want all of our kids to go to college. Mm-hmm. We want kids to go to the vocational route. And so now we're finally at a point now where we really understand that in order for kids to be really successful, we really need to tap into who they are, what their talents are.
For sure.
And so for work-based learning is this idea of having a post-secondary plan.
Yep.
It shouldn't start in high school. It should actually begin, for me, I believe, in middle school with our students. So the work-based learning positions students to get those experiences while they're in school based off the goals that they and their families have set for themselves by the time they graduate from high school.
For sure.
And it positions the superintendent, the school board, the community to build partnerships with the businesses within our city, within the metro, around how we get our students connected for internships, for job shadowing, for pre-apprentice programs, for apprentice programs that set them up for success by the time they graduate from high school.
Yeah, I mean, it's a win-win-win all the way around.
Absolutely.
Especially the way you just explained it, it's like, how can you not want to be part of that or take advantage of it? I was in, you mentioned when you were in high school, you had an opportunity to teach, which what a concept. That's pretty neat. I went to DECA at the time. I don't even know what they call, and so I worked half the day and then went to school in the morning. And, I went into the military. I wasn't ready for college either. Not right out of high school, but 3 or 4 months after. And same process, that experience in high school, though, helped me tremendously in the military, quite honestly. Do you think that your passion for work-based learning has anything to do with how you were raised as well, or how you grew up in Indianapolis, or is it just based on what you've kind of learned in the education world?
So I see it as hindsight 2020,
right.
Where again, I was in high school where you were on the college track.
That's right.
Or the vocational track.
That's right. Yeah.
And I chose, because I didn't have anyone in my life to really talk to me about it. I chose the college track. And so again, hindsight being 2020,
right.
I really wish that I would have been exposed to some of those skill trades during those 4 years of high school.
For sure.
And so but not having a grandfather uncles, some aunts that were in the skilled trades. But then I leave and not have any of those skills out of high school. It really puts me in a position to, where how can we make our kids more well-rounded
for sure
by still preparing them for college if they choose to do that.
Absolutely.
But then also, if you want to be a diesel tech, you have that skill set to go that route.
I think, and what you said right there is so key. Work-based learning doesn't mean that you don't have the opportunity to go to a four-year school. In fact, it can enhance what you're going to do as you pursue that avenue. Totally agree. Great points there. Okay,
and I think, sorry to cut you off, but I think this. So when we look at our children that go into the skilled trades, the skill sets that they have that translate for them to be successful in college,
for sure,
translates wonderfully.
Yeah. So we had last summer we did a 3-part series with Iowa Big, Cedar Falls, and our Caps, Cedar Falls Caps, and they were talking about I think the one thing I drew from that with some of those students that they had in their program was just how much better they were able to communicate with human beings as well, which suits anybody well. We see that in jobs, folks who come in as past the young adult age and still have trouble there, and that experience is so invaluable.
There's no job that I can think of where you're working alone.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
You have to work with a team.
For sure. Great points. Okay. So how are you guys, or what are you guys doing about creating pathways for those employers? Ankeny's, it's before we know it, Ankeny's going to be the size of China. It seems like, give us, or do you think, give us a breakdown of, how you guys can get to the point where employers may have the opportunity to pluck kids right out of high school, or do you think maybe that's already happening? I just, I kind of envision, that, employers suck these kids up and then they put them through their training program, their education program. And is that too radical now? If it seems
Absolutely
like that's, are we coming full circle? What do you think there?
No. So, you've touched on it at the beginning when you talked about Orbis.
Yeah.
And so Orbis, we're on the precipice of something really great for not only our district, but I think the field of education. And so what Orbis does in a great way is we take students across many different areas.
Yep.
We bring them together around project-based learning, and then we pair them with people in industry within the city of Ankeny. Mm-hmm. And the reason we're able to do that is because our business partners within Ankeny understand that with having a great school district like Ankeny Community Schools, they need to expose our students to what the job market looks like.
Absolutely. And
provides different pathways and options for those students that choose not to go to the 4-year institution or even the 2-year institution. Yep. However, businesses like Craig Tool, Accumo, Carl Chevrolet, John Deere, Casey's, they're all willing partners in figuring out how we can expose our students to the workforce while they're still in school. Yeah.
Do you think, well said, do you think those employers, there's some flagship employers right there. Do you think, and I know you've been in the position just 12 months, but do you think their thought process now is different from the pandemic? I'm obsessed with that, throwing a pandemic question in here too, and just how people are changing how they think to fill their workforce needs. What do you think there?
So I think it's how they fill their workforce, but then also how the workforce works for them.
Sure.
And so I think there are some things that we did learn from the pandemic with regards to how staff work in an organization. And so, do we always have to be together in order to get tasks done?
Right.
The answer is no.
Right.
And so, but there are some industries that require you to be on site in order to get the work done. But I think that based off my conversations with our business partners, they want students to be adaptable and flexible with regards to how they work in person with their peers, but then also do they have the ability to be flexible enough to transition to remote work and working from home.
Well, again, as a high school student, you have the opportunity, and when you're in a program like this, to be able to do that, and it's a win-win. So great stuff. Let me ask you too, real quick, to piggyback on that, kind of off script. How do you guys get connected with employers in most places? Do you guys reach out, or do they reach out to you? A little bit of both?
So I've adopted a great team.
Yeah, sure.
So my chief of academic services is Dr. Lindeman, and then the person that has been leading Orbis is Dr. Urick. She's currently the principal at Centennial High School.
I met her. She touted your name as well. That's right. Yeah.
And so those two have been key in making those connections to industry. But then also we have some really dynamic board members that have preceded me, and that have some of them have preceded our current board members that have also advocated for this collaboration and connection for our school district, because many of our school board members work for some of those companies that I've just mentioned. And so, what better way of connecting us than taking us to their companies?
Well, that's smart though. That's smart marketing and advertising means built in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's really intriguing. I hadn't thought about that concept, I guess, but yeah, that makes total sense. What you just said there, it's a community opportunity, and everybody involved is helping.
One of my board members, when I first came on, early on, he talked about the word community in the name of the district. Yeah. He said that if we can tap into this is Ankeny Community School District. And so the community is part of the school district, which involves not only our parents, students, and staff, but then also our businesses, the chamber, the Ankeny Economic Development Corporation. And so it's a lot of these different entities that they're part of the community. Even our retired teachers.
I was going to say,
even our folks that I just came from a Rotary Club meeting. The people that don't have kids, they're vested in the success of this community school, which is really important, a really important concept for people that move to Ankeny and that want their kids in Ankeny to understand that it's just not the superintendent, it's just not the principal, it's all of us working towards a common goal of serving all of our kids at a really high level.
Yeah, awesome. That's really great to hear. Okay, switching gears, talk to us about how you identify those high school students, who aren't wanting to pursue a college degree. I really, really respect the fact that, as an educator yourself, you're basically acknowledging that's not the pathway for everybody, and that's, I think, becoming more of the norm. And getting them engaged in those registered apprenticeships. Again, you've kind of touched on this basically in every answer, but do you guys know? How do you know, or do you know? Are there kids that are just like, we know we got a spot for them. We just got to push them there to get them in there. Can you do that? Is that fair? What do you think?
So I think that we just went through a year-long strategic planning process, and I think through that, what we've identified is this is an area of opportunity for our district with regards to what are the resources that we currently have that we haven't been using at a high level, and one of those is Naviance. We believe that we can begin using Naviance in a more significant way, not only with our students but with our parents with regards to the interest surveys that we administer with our students. Again, not beginning in high school, but we need our approach to work-based learning, skill trades, post-secondary success has to start. I believe our starting point has to be in sixth grade. Okay. We can talk about careers and everything when our children are in pre-K through fifth grade, but in sixth grade, I believe our students begin to have some idea of what they may want to do, and they need those opportunities to explore those careers either through a class, bringing people from industry in to talk to them, and then sending them out to be exposed through a shadow day. Yeah. And so I believe that Naviance is one way we can begin.
What is Naviance? Explain that.
Naviance is a program that we can use. An online program that allows students to take interest surveys, but then it also tracks building a post-secondary plan for our students. And then it's also a way where kids can apply to colleges and begin building resumes.
Gotcha.
And so it can be a really powerful tool, not only for our students, but then also to inform our parents. And I think that's an issue that also needs to be further enhanced in our district, where we need to make sure that our parents are aware of the opportunities, in addition to four-year institutions, that our students have for workforce development.
I was going to say, I didn't have the parents thing on there because I feel like I bring that up all the time, and that is so important, right? And I mean, Is it just any way possible to get the word out? Email, social media, whatever. Is there a secret button that you guys have figured out to do that?
I believe we're still figuring it out.
I think so.
Some of the things that we did last year, I had a superintendent parent advisory council, the podcast we started. We're beginning to use Twitter and Snapchat a little bit more effectively. The district does use Facebook. We have a lot of parent Facebook groups.
Sure.
But I think that it's really getting in front of parents. So the social media works.
Sure.
But I believe the most effective is getting parents in front of our administrators, our teachers, to talk about the different options we have. And I'm just thinking about our partnership with DMAC, which has been invaluable because they're in our backyard. And so I'm just thinking about solar, wind programs that are being offered where kids that have that interest, they don't have to go to school, but if we just expose our parents to what students need to do in order to pursue those two areas, I think it would open up possibilities for all of our kids in our district.
I totally agree. When we had the last dollar scholarship money that was out there, or that is out there, I mean, there's so many opportunities out there for kids as well to have so much of this paid for as well. Right? Some of it done for free, as you know. So you mentioned the podcast. It's the Jag Hawk Talk, right?
So
talk to us about the podcast.
So you got to love students. And so we started the Jag Hawk Talk back in the winter of 2021.
Okay.
This was started by our Orbit students.
Okay, very cool.
So it was led by students. They have since graduated, but they gave me the idea and said, Dr. Pruitt, you should do a podcast.
Sure.
And so we've started a podcast named Let's Talk About.
Okay.
And so we've had a series of podcasts beginning since, I believe, March or April, and it's Let's Talk About, and we've had different topics. We've had President Denson. I had Miss Iowa on.
Oh, wow. Yeah, very cool.
Of course, I've had staff on to talk about some of the different initiatives that have been going on in the district, but this is one way where we can bring in people from outside of our district and within to really brag about our district and inform parents about what's great about our district, but also what we're doing to make it even better.
Totally. And, especially, you got new set of parents and you got legacy and you got all these other things, but that podcast is just a great way for parents to listen to what's going on their way to work. I mean, it's just a good way to do it. So congratulations on doing it. Again, it's called Let's Talk About. I'm assuming you guys are on every platform that's out there as well. Okay.
We are.
Well, you need to check that out, folks. You need to download it and put that in your top 5. Okay, lastly, what innovations do you see in the education workforce over the next 5 years? Totally. Here you go. Just answer now. What do you think? They're not
small question, right?
You're already doing a lot of things, but anything else you want to add there?
So when I think about skill trades, I think that we need to rethink how students earn credit in order to be able to graduate.
For sure.
And so in 5 years, 10 years, do we still need to have kids in a classroom earning credit? Or can it be them out in the workforce earning credit in an internship, a pre-apprentice program, earning credit towards graduation? So I think, and what I'm saying isn't new to Iowa, isn't new nationally. And so I think we need to revisit some of those things that we've done in the past and reintegrate those back into how we think about kids earning credit. But then also, again, remote learning, how we use technology can also be a way for us to innovate and provide more options for our families and our students as we move forward.
Yeah, well said. I would have so been all over that. Learning different credit on the job. Just great stuff. Man, wealth of information. Congratulations on everything you're doing. Thank you. Very awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to Dr. Erick Pruitt, who is the superintendent over the Ankeny Community School District. And you guys got your own podcast. I've heard nothing but great things about you. I really appreciate it. Hope to get you on maybe in the next 12 months again.
Absolutely. Thank you.